next up is our first panel, the stablecoins exploring the realm of possibilities. And we will have Lilan, the moderator, Yelena, Daiki, Danny, Dean. Please welcome them on the stage.
Let's get over. Let's get closer together. So I'm really excited to have everyone here. Stablecoins are always a fun topic to discuss because stablecoins are A, not always stable, and B, there's many different stablecoins. All these different stablecoins tend to compete with each other for attention, and each person here represents a different stablecoin. And so everyone will have a very different perspective on what they think is the best stablecoin, or like what stablecoins are good for different situations, and what stablecoin we think will do well in the future. So I'm Leland. I'm an investor at Galaxy, and I'm so excited to have this amazing panel here. So let's go introduce ourselves, say your name, describe kind of your protocol, your stablecoin really briefly, and then we can later go into like spicy takes and talk about the status quo in the future.
Yes. Sure. So I am Dean Tribble. I am CEO of Agoric. Agoric is a Cosmos-based platform for doing smart contracts in JavaScript. And last month, June, we shipped the core platform. And on top of it, the first use case is kind of integral to the system, which is a native MakerDAO style, vault style stable token built native for IBC, backed by Atom, and backed by USDC and USDT and DAI and et cetera. And so it is a extensible smart contract implemented over collateralized stable token.
Awesome. I'm Yel. Is this on?
It is.
Okay, good.
I can hear you.
Okay, that's the most important thing. So I'm Yelena. I'm the co-founder of Noble. Noble is a generic asset issuance chain. We're partnering with Circle to bring USDC to Cosmos. We're also partnered with Toki, who's obviously Daiki will talk more about Toki. So we partner with asset issuers to pretty much help them bring their stablecoin and other sort of crypto assets on chain. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me today. I am Daik, founder of Toki. Toki is developing the cross-chain single-click native token transfer bridge using IBC across various blockchains between Ethereum and Cosmos. And we partnered with MUFG, who is the largest banking group in Japan, to issue the stablecoin for Japanese market and compliant with the Japanese new legislation. And I would like to talk about it a little later. And also we announced the partnerships with Noble to bring the Japanese stablecoin from Japanese market to the Cosmos ecosystem. So I'm very excited to be here to talk about it more. Thanks.
Great. Hi. Apologies for being late. Danny Bocanegra, head of BD at Kava. And Tether chose Kava as the hub for native USD deployment, which is why we are here. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's talk about the past of stablecoins. If we look at Cosmos from roughly 1 to 2 years ago, kind of what was the state of stablecoins? Like what was the most dominant stablecoin at the time?
All right, I'll take this one. So the story of Noble is really, really tied to the story of Terra and UST. So, I mean, I think we all know what the dominant stablecoin was. About 1 to 2 years ago, we're still dealing with some remnants, potentially trauma. I was personally, paying rent in Los Angeles with UST. So these were assets that we were all, expecting to be stable. But obviously, when that all collapsed, it was a pretty serious moment of reflection, and you could even kind of argue as a crisis point. USDC and kind of our partnership with Circle really started at that point. So about a year ago, seeing kind of the collapse of Terra, seeing how kind of detrimental it was to many projects in this space, seeing how detrimental it was to the broader ecosystem. And so we really kind of came together and we said, we need a neutral platform, we need a neutral asset issuance chain, that's not a DEX, that doesn't do DeFi, that doesn't necessarily issue its own asset, to really partner with entities like Circle. And so that's what we did. Hopefully we are out of that traumatic phase.
Thank you for that context. It's very important to say like why we need native stablecoins within the Cosmos. I guess like, here's an interesting question. Like, Noble brings USDC into Cosmos right now. I guess can you explain to the audience how does this differ from, say, Axelar USDC?
Yeah, so the difference is that we work with Circle, so we're partnered with Circle to have the canonical asset sort of on-chain. So you can do minting, you could do burning, you can sort of have all the functionalities that you would have with USDC on Ethereum, or really any other kind of supported layer 1 or layer 2. So, it is not a bridged asset. It's, not a derivative. You don't lock in mint or anything like this. Noble is also not a bridge. It is a layer 1 that can obviously support issuance of stablecoins like USDC. So I don't know if that answers your question, but Noble is not a bridge.
I want to fill in some more background. I want to fill in some more background from the last year because that puts some of these projects in context as well, right? UST was out there. There was a lot of people in Cosmos ecosystem, in the Interchain ecosystem, that knew it had potential issues and were holding their breath, wanting something else to get there so we could start moving off of that UST dependency, but it was kind of the only game in town at the time. And I, for example, talked about the agoric economy that had a stable token, and it was actually Sunny at Cosmoverse in Lisbon. He was like, "Oh my God, an atom-backed stablecoin! Oh my gosh, do we need that? How soon can I have it?" Right? Because he wanted off of UST. Right, UST imploded, and what's happened then is it inspired, lots of people moved their plans forward, but between then and now, folks like Axelar, folks like Gravity bridged the stables from, USDC, USDT, DAI, et cetera, bridged them over into the Cosmos ecosystem, and that was a big step forward, where now we had something that was that. But it's not as good, obviously, as a natively implemented over-collateralized stable token, a natively deployed version of USDC or USDT, or other things. And so we sort of took that, oh my God, things went to hell. Now we've got some adequate things that let us start to do business, and we've all started to do business, but now we're moving into this next phase of much, much more robust stablecoin economy in the Cosmos ecosystem. So.
And I agree, and it seems like there's a much more robust, but also a lot more stable coins to choose from. And so I wonder what kind of dynamics does that lead when you're like, like USDC from Noble, we have this Axelar USDC, it's like Gravity Bridge USDC, we have like this IST, we have USDT from Kava, now we're going to have a Japanese stablecoin soon. Like, how do you think users will determine, like, or how do protocols think about which stablecoins they want to integrate?
Yeah, it's a good point. So at Kava, our goals for the next X amount of time are to drive liquidity around USDT and stablecoins that we also integrate, and also build native projects on Kava's chain. So what users want are optionality and liquidity. So by driving USDT's native stablecoin adoption on Kava and to the other Cosmos chains, we're giving optionality, among other options as well, on Cosmos. The liquidity piece is really challenging, and I think one of the pieces that why USDT chose Kava is we have a track record of driving high amount of liquidity amongst Cosmos projects in DeFi. And obviously, they're the massive, stable coin that has dominance across the world right now at 84, 86 billion throughout exchanges. So they intend to do that here in the Cosmos ecosystem as well, and that trust throughout stablecoins will be an option for Cosmos.
So
yeah, and so the second point here is around how projects, you mentioned that, like how projects adopt which stablecoins. Again, that trust and that liquidity throughout USDT will be something that will be a strong option for Cosmos.
Yeah, sorry for almost interrupting you there, but so that's great. So Noble takes a little bit of a different approach. Obviously, liquidity and optionality are incredibly important, but really what we try to do is make sure that the user experience for the end user makes sense, right? And so that's both retail and institution. So for Noble, for example, with institutional kind of partners that rely on USDC for market making or anything that they really need to sort of do with the asset. We're hooked into something like the Circle account, so making sure that these these partners have a compliant, sort of streamlined, sort of straightforward way to again deposit a bunch of cash, mint that on chain, have that be transparent, have that be understood is really important for us. On the retail side, it's really making sure we're partnered with wallets, making sure that people understand how to get access to the asset, and making sure that there is always sort of a streamlined path when it comes to things like IPC token transfers. So user experience, we believe, will move the needle.
So I have a more general answer, or more specific. I have a more specific answer because we were originally inspired by actually that problem, right? You look at Solana and you'd see 20 different dollar stablecoin things, right? What people need, they need optionality, as I said. They need availability, but they also need multiple ways to mint the asset, right? We've got multiple sources of wealth, multiple sources of capital, and we'd like to unleash all of those. So we need, dollars in a bank account is a huge one, right? And that's brought by USDC, it's brought by Tether. Dollars in a T-bill, right? It's brought by these things. And so from my perspective for IST, we outsource that because these people have it covered, right? But we have literally billions of dollars in asset locked up in staked Atom, in Osmo, in all these different assets that we would also like to unleash. And while the financial backbone wants optionality of things that have exactly the right flavor and exactly the right assets in a various places, and they do treasury management and all that, consumers coming in don't. They want a thing they can pay with wherever they're at. They want to be able to back it by whatever they've got that's legitimate and solvent and so forth. And so a lot of the point of IST is to be extensible so we can incorporate these other sources of asset, sources of capital, sources of wealth, and present and mint in a solvent fashion against all of them. So if you've got dollars in a bank account, by all means, bring it in through one of these mechanisms, and then any place that accepts IST, you can take it. Any place that it's getting integrated into gas, you can pay gas, right? And many of those places will also directly support USDC and USDT, so people retain the optionality. But man, if you've got Atom, getting USDC, you got to sell your Atom, and you don't really want to do that, right? And so being able to have these multiple minting mechanisms is crucial, and roll them all up into a single thing that you can pay wherever. And so my favorite scenario is everyone starts by accepting IST, and there's quick pathways through all of these mechanisms to get into it. Obviously, most of them are going to accept multiples, but the user experience needs to be simple.
Yeah, hopefully there's not too much conflict. I mean, mentioning Solana is quite interesting because I remember a year or two ago, you look at the list of stablecoins on Sabre, and Sabre has like 20 different stablecoins because there's 5 different bridges into Solana, and then there's also USDC issued natively on Solana, and it's like, oh no, like it's very confusing which coins we should actually be using, and like which one has liquidity, and like, oh, it was a nightmare. But eventually, Solana ended up only having like one dominant stablecoin, which was USDC. So I'm very curious to see kind of how that will play out within the Cosmos ecosystem. But let's not fight too much. So
no one's fighting.
I thought you wanted spicy, man.
Going back to optionality and liquidity, right? USDC has been winning in terms of adoption in DeFi, and that's no secret. At Kava, we intend to integrate Noble once it's ready and live, and making sure that USDC is available for our users, because that's the best experience for users. To have optionality, to have something that they're comfortable with and that they trust inside of our native projects, as well as the largest sort of stablecoin in the world being USDT. And those two pieces are really important to drive, again, liquidity and adoption for our users. And as a top L1 that we aspire to be, that's sort of the name of the game and what we intend to do. You can make this as spicy as you want, but frankly, we're going to do what's right for our users, and in order to grow as a top L1, and that will include incorporating whatever Noble comes out and making sure that USDC gets on our platform.
It is worth noting that DeFi Summer, a big part of that was having not one stablecoin, but more than one stablecoin, so that you could have real yield curves, so you could have trade-offs, and so you had these things that could drive the economy. And so, so I am excited that we have, we don't necessarily need more than this, but we need this.
Yeah, and not having systemic risk is very important. Like too much dependency in one stablecoin is not always nice.
And I mean, it's very basic, but a rising tide lifts all boats. So, I think we can be spicy, but at the end of the day, it's all good.
Yeah, one of the things that we're doing at Kava is analogous to our Kava Rise program, which is an on-chain reward system. When dApps supply liquidity, they in return get Kava to grow the protocols as rewards. We're also doing that with other Cosmos chains. So working with the likes of Kronos and Injective and Osmosis, et cetera, so that when their native apps have USDT as liquidity, Kava will then also support them with Kava token as a form of seeding liquidity of a dominant stablecoin throughout the rest of Cosmos ecosystem. We think that this is really hard work and going to take some time. But right now we have X number of exchanges who have adopted Kava on and off ramp. That took a little bit of work. We also have other Cosmos chains, as I mentioned, who are excited to adopt USDT and then in turn get some Kava rewards. So these are just like things that are happening that have to happen in order for adoption and optionality and liquidity to happen.
So I guess like now that we have all these stablecoins are natively issued on Cosmos, like what do we think of all these bridge stablecoins? Like, and what does this mean for bridges overall? Like, how should we be thinking about Axelar and Gravity Bridge, given how most of their volume tends to be stablecoins?
Yeah, so I mean, Noble very much believes that our team believes that bridges obviously like play a very important kind of role in terms of like fundamental infrastructure, fundamental plumbing within the crypto space. But I think there is definitely sort of like a division to be made between sort of the stable coins that you see, like USDC, or even what Daiki is building with Toki, that require a little bit more compliance, require a bit more security, require a little bit more trust with the issuer. So when it comes to something like USDC, obviously they're building this cross-chain transfer protocol, which is effectively kind of their bridge, right? So they become the bridge and they become sort of the trust layer. But I'm curious kind of what you have to say about this.
Yeah. So having the multiple options, including the several bridge USDC bridge stablecoin is good, but from our perspectives, so we are building this native token swap bridge. So user will deposit their USDC on Ethereum, and through our bridges, user can get the USDC on the Noble natively. So this kind of native token swap experience is very important from the good user experience perspectives, and also reducing the too much enough stablecoin options is right. Make the user experience more efficient. So that's why this native token bridge is the one of the important options for users. This is what we are approaching.
There very much is a trend where sort of the issuer becomes the bridge. In this case with Toki and working with the largest banks in Japan. Japan being the third largest world economy. It's a pretty big deal. And with Circle, for example, they obviously are driving the needle with like regulations and with compliance. So really, with specific use cases and specific issuers, you really do need that sort of trusted kind of bridging layer where the issuer effectively becomes the bridge.
How do we think about non-USD denominated stablecoins in general? Like we've seen, I believe Circle has issued like a Euro stablecoin, but my understanding of looking at these analytic pages is that adoption tends to be on the lower side. Where do we think the demand for non-US stablecoins come from, and who are the ultimate users of them?
Yeah, of course we are preparing for JPY pegged stablecoin, And so far, JPY pegged stablecoins dominance is pretty small, maybe less than 1%. But this is because we don't have the stablecoin for Japanese market, and we don't have the on-ramp, off-ramp services. But since the new legislation is enforced last month, we finally could issue the stablecoin legally, and we could have the on-ramp, off-ramp services, which is domestic exchanges. So based on our Japanese economic potential, the JPY pegged stablecoin can be a boost in near future, and also not only the DeFi use cases. Since this Japanese stablecoin can be regarded as the payment way, same as the fiat or other e-monies, so we have a lot of use cases beside of the DeFi. Let's say delivery process payment for digital security payment, as well as international trading company, international trading settlement way. So this is going to be a very huge, since the transaction volume is at least starting from 1 billion, something like that. So because of that, the JPY pegged stablecoin is kind of very required from the market.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited for that future when you have more different currency denominated stablecoins. I guess as we kind of wrap up, I would love to have like a hot take from every single panelist. The spicier, the better. No fighting, please.
Okay, so I'll start. This is partly also in ask of your question about bridge stablecoins, right? Because it's awesome that we're getting the native ones coming in, but I think the bridge ones are going to be here for a long time, right? If I've got $1 million to move, and I'd love to have $1 million to move, then I can do all sorts of things to do it most efficiently, and I clearly care very deeply about the safety. If I'm trying to buy an NFT for $50, right, I want the lowest overhead possible. I've got it on ETH. I want to move it, and that might be Axelar, that might be Gravity. It might be a thing that did automation to move from Aave over into Osmosis or into Stargaze, where the automation was done by Squid and it goes over Axelar, and bridging there is just fine, right? And underneath the covers, we might well have stuff that resolves that bridge thing to a more native stablecoin. But IBC has some counterparty risk. It's one that the chains generally will absorb, but there's some counterparty risk. Using Kava, using Noble, it's another chain that'll have some counterparty risk. Bridges are just different, and historically, higher counterparty risk. But but the bridges, both Axelar and Gravity are pretty, as bridge architectures go, they're really good. And so I think it'll be there for quite a while. For us, we lower we have different risk limits on different sources of capital, and so I would expect it to have a different risk limit to reflect that it might be a higher counterparty risk. But I think there's such a convenience factor that that's going to be there for a long time.
Controversial.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how spicy you want to get, right? It's like when you do that hot sauce tasting test. How far do you want to go?
Boxing ring.
Right. And there's also the boxing ring. So, for Noble, we very much see that any chain that is the most incentive aligned with the growth of the IBC ecosystem will ultimately sort of, dominate in some respect when it comes to issuance. And we really do believe that having that sort of alignment, having that sort of positive sum sort of outcome, not necessarily competing with other chains, but very much being a positive sum sort of equal partner is really what matters. So the chain, again, that's most incentive aligned with the rest of the ecosystem will probably do the best.
Let's continue with the hot takes. 2 more, then we'll wrap up.
Sorry.
Hot take, something spicy, controversial.
Huh?
Controversial.
Controversial. What is that? Sorry.
I wish I spoke Japanese.
Something that you believe that other people don't believe.
Something we would disagree with.
Yeah, something you, yeah.
Disagree with for?
Something you want to get a small fight over in stablecoins. That something that you believe other people don't believe, that they'll get upset at, or?
What are you?
I'm generally not that spicy, so, but I think that looking at the data and going back to your original question around native versus wrapped assets, historically Kava has not accepted wrapped assets in some of our core DeFi protocols, and as a result, we were largely, or our users were largely safe from the multi-chain debacle, which is a good thing for our users and for our apps. Going forward, I think that Cosmos is such a small ecosystem that we at Kava really welcome competition, and as a result, I think that like I said, we'll integrate Noble once it's ready, and then secondly, I think that those two native assets will dominate the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem, and frankly, wrapped assets won't be as popular or relevant, frankly.
I think this is I think that this opinion is different. It's not answering your questions, but in my opinion, what we would like to do is the good user experience. So even though there are several stablecoins on each platforms, on the Cosmos ecosystem, on the Ethereum, on the blah blah blah, whatever. So, but the important point is the effortless cross-chain user experience for the users. So even though user wants to use the USDT on Keplr, but want to use the, let's say, another applications on the Ethereum, but even if the user wants to use any types of the stable coins, we have to provide the good user experience to utilize any type of application on any chains. So we would like to provide these experience to the users.
Yeah,
Sorry, this is
good UX is. I would say, given how most protocols don't have good UX, this is I would consider this a hot take. So perfect. Thank you so much, guys. I think we're really excited for the future of stablecoins and the future of many stablecoins.
Thank you.
Thank you.